All right, continuing from where we left off in our previous class. Right, this is the insert for the October 2024 paper 11. Right, it's not the variant that we do in Pakistan. In Pakistan, we do variant 12 that you're well aware of. Right, for practice sake, it's all good. Okay, so we were like, I would give you time to read the whole text, but we are kind of done up till here. Right, we've done questions. In fact, up till here. Right, so we've done questions up till paragraph 6. Right. So let's look at the next question, see which paragraph it's from, and you can read from this point onwards. So that's this question 1G, right? And it's talking about paragraph 8. So because we don't want to confuse our answers, we don't want overlapping answers, what we want to do is read both parts 1 and 2 to know what each is asking and then answer accordingly once we find it from the text. So in paragraph 8, Matt and Caleb discover a problem that they will face during the swim. What is the problem? So that's pretty much straightforward. It's an explicit meaning question. Find the problem in the text and list it, right? It's 1 mark. Then what does the guide suggest Matt and Caleb should do to solve the problem? Okay, again, an explicit meaning question, right? You find it in the text. So here we go to paragraph 8 over here. So you can read that, and you can either speak it out or put it in the chat when you find the answer. All right, so have you found the answers? What would you say for the first one, G1, what the problem was? Anyone with the answer? Can you hear me? Can you see the screen? It's pretty straight. It's right there in the text. It shouldn't be taking you that long.
What's the question, sir?
What's the question? The question is G part 1, a problem that they discover that they'll face during the swim. What is the problem?
Show the insert.
From paragraph 8. All right, we have a response for strong undercurrents. Iman, I believe you're looking at the wrong paragraph. It's from paragraph 8. So this, okay? And right, the possible answers would be either two currents that flow through the strait or a strong undercurrent. Okay, so that would be the correct answer for part one, the problem. The next part is, what does the guide suggest Matt and Caleb should do to solve the problem? Okay, that's also paragraph 8. So, right, again, this paragraph. So, take a read and tell me what you think the answer should be. All right, aiming left and fighting the current is one of the responses. Swing left. Okay, I feel that is the correct answer. How? Yeah, okay. So you could have said that, or you could have said aim for the flagpole on the hillside, right? So that is also an possible answer given by the examiner. Just a minute. All right. So good job on that. Next, right, the last question of question 1, which are the explicit and implicit meaning questions. Right, and this is a using your own words question. So keep in mind that when they're asking you to use your own words for an answer, that means whatever it is that the question is asking you, you find that, and then you go to rephrase it using appropriate synonyms or synonym phrases, right? So change the words, but keep the meaning same, right? You're not supposed to change the meaning. You're not supposed to come up with something yourself and say using your own words. You're supposed to find the answer from the text, but when you write it down, it should be changed as far as the words are concerned, right? So, for example, if the text says joyful, right? That's the word the text says. And so maybe when you give your response, you could say delighted. Okay. All right. So explain using your own words, Ed's different feelings about the swim, right? So it's not Matt or Caleb. This is the third character of the text, Ed, and it's worth 3 marks. So, right, how this works is they're asking for three. The feelings are what you have to express in your own words. The feelings will be implicit. So you have to figure it out, right? And right, you have to go through the text so far, right, up till this point, and or maybe further, and right, figure out 3 different feelings that Ed experienced about the swim. Then, to support each of your responses about how he was feeling, maybe he was feeling nervous or whatever, right, or excited, and then you give details from the text. The details from the text will you can write in inverted commas, as we discussed when we were talking about punctuation. So you can write down inverted commas and you can quote the text directly. Okay. So I'm going to the insert, and where is the first mention of head? Right, so it starts from paragraph 4. So read paragraph 4 to 8, right? And there's also, if I just zoom out, let me know if you can see that properly. Does it help? Right? You can read this part and find the different feelings and the supporting evidence from the text, and type it out in the chat, or let me know, you can voice it as well when you found it. Just don't take too long. Have you been able to find any point so far? Any feeling? Okay, he was impatient. Okay, he was cautious. He was questioning them about their swimming trainings. Um, okay, he was impatient. What evidence do you have for the impatient one? The cautious one can work. What about the impatient one? Right, you need a separate, and you can find it in the text. Right, maybe, yeah, it's in. If I just guide you, it's you can find it in paragraph 9. All right, have you been able to find anything else? Any other points? There's a bit more in one of the later paragraphs, right? Paragraph 11, if you're okay with me scrolling down, right? So there's a mention of Ed over here as well. That helps in paragraph 11. Right, so have you found any other points for the feelings? Can you hear me? Just checking. Okay. Right, so, right, you can pick up reckless from the fact that they're mentioning recklessly over here, right? For the impatient one, right, that you mentioned, uh, you can take what's mentioned over here, right, that he weaved his way through to the front and forgot to step on the starter, right? So that is impatience. So you could use that as the detail. Now remember, you're going to get 1 mark when you have a combination of a correct combination of feeling and detail, right? If either one of those are incorrect, then there are no half marks in Cambridge for any subject at all, right? It's not just English. Cambridge does not deal in half marks, all right? So you either get the mark or you don't. So what we have, he was feeling cautious when he questioned them about their training. That's fine. Impatience, we got this, right? He was reckless. We could also have used this. We're only here once, so this shows his excitement, right? Uh, Over here in paragraph 4, that he became particularly animated at the mention of jellyfish narrowly choking on his chicken and rice, right? So maybe he was scared or nervous of jellyfish. So there are actually a number of different feelings that could have been taken from the text. You did well, right? It did take a bit of time, but you got them right. Good. Okay, now we're done with the part where there are explicit and implicit questions. Now we're moving on to the part, question two of the comprehension, which have 9 marks worth of writer's meaning and effect questions, right? And these are the questions where, in our initial classes, I mentioned that you have to be imaginative and exaggerate. Welcome to the class, Muhammad Aun. Salam alaikum. Okay, so we're starting with question two. Again, being imaginative and exaggerative. So whatever they're asking you to write, explain what the writer thinks or what he wants to suggest or why he said this the way he did or why did he use this particular word. And so, right, the meaning that the apparent meaning that comes to your mind initially is not what usually not what Cambridge is looking for. Again, right, we can't get into the examiner's head, right? We can only try to answer it as best as possible. So, right, for each one, you want to think a bit beyond, right, what it could mean and maybe exaggerate a bit. Right, so of course we're doing this for the sake of practice, so there's no issue if you get it wrong. There's right, never an issue, right? Getting something wrong is not the problem, right? The problem is if you don't learn from it, and we're here to learn, so there aren't going to be any problems, inshallah. Okay, so coming to question 2a, read the sentence from the text, right? This is from lines 47 to 48. Now, normally question when question 2 starts, it kind of starts from where question 1 left off, right? And so we had come up till, question paragraph 9 maybe, right? Or paragraph 8 in question 1. And so they're starting this from lines 47 and 48, which are from paragraph 10, right? They might take us back to an earlier paragraph as well. So there's no set rule by Cambridge that we're going to ask these type of questions from this type of the from this part of the comprehension text. But it's kind of a trend that I've noticed. Okay, I'm sure others have as well. Okay, so again, what do lines 47 and 48 say? If you want, you can go to the text for reference, or you can try and figure it out here. Here, unexpectedly, the weather suddenly calmed, and the morning sun lit up the water as we waded in with the heat on our bare backs. Right? What does the writer want to suggest to the reader about the swim at this point? It's a 1 mark question, right? Most of these are 1 and 2 marks. I believe only the last one is worth 3 marks. Yeah. Okay. So from this line, right? And for context, what we know is before this, right? The day before, the weather was really rough and all of that, right? We knew that, but unexpectedly, and even when they were, I believe, traveling over there, right? It was pretty rough. But then unexpectedly, the weather suddenly calmed and the morning sun lit up as we waded in the heat, waded in with the heat on our bare backs. Right, so I'll just zoom back in over here. Right, and so what do you think the writer is suggesting about the swim? Right, not about how, like focus on what the question is asking. What does it tell you about the swim? All right. Any ideas? Right. This one's not as technical, right? It's something that if you just think about it slightly, given the context of how the water was the previous day and just a while before, then you'd be able to understand because they're going for the swim. So, right, the weather became calm, and so how is the swim? How is the swim going to be? Yes. Any responses? Any ideas? Like whatever you have. Okay. Again, like I said, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about practicing and learning and growing. Right. So if you give a response and if it's correct, it's on point, then very good. If it's not, no issues. We're learning. Okay, we have a response from Farwa. The swim would be easier. On, do you have any like response for this question yet? Okay, so you can give your response in the chat when you have one on. I'd like to move on to the next question if that's okay. And Farwa, your response is correct. There are other alternative responses possible, but the one you've given is correct, right? So that's good. All right, moving on to question D. Explain why the writer uses the word paused rather than stopped, right? In the phrase, we paused in the middle of the rush of bodies, right? So that's line 48. So that's immediately after the one we just did, right? So we paused in the middle of the rush of bodies and pulled down our goggles, right? And so why the word paused and not stop? Now this is where nuance comes into play, right? Nuance is the slight difference in the meanings of words, right? And so what do you think is meant by paused as opposed to stop. And then you work on that and give your response. All right, Farwa, you already have a response. That's very good. Just stop for a while. Okay. On beta, are you there? Are you able to hear me? Are you like, give me some sort of response to know that you're in class? You weren't able to hear me? Okay, so we are, okay. Okay, so we did question 2A, right? If you want, you can attempt that. And we also just did question 2B. Farwa has given her response, right? If you want, I'll give you a minute, maybe, or a few, like not a full minute, or if you can come up with a response for, explain why the writer uses the word paused rather than stopped in the phrase, we paused in the middle of the rush of bodies. Okay, so why that particular use of pause and not stop? Okay, so it's over here. Any idea? Because I want to move on to the next question. We have about 3 minutes. I don't know if you'll be able to manage it though. It doesn't have to be a correct answer, beta. You're trying, so at least have an answer. It doesn't have to be correct. So what do you think it means? All right, Farwa, so your response that they stopped for a while. It could have been stopped briefly, or they didn't completely stop, or they carried on, right? So any variation of that, or they stopped momentarily, So any variation of that would be correct, right? That is what pause means, that a brief stop and then you continue, rather than just saying stop, that you completely stop and that's it, like you're standing over there. Okay, so that is again a nuance, and nuances is something that you need to be, able to work with. Now, right, the meeting's going to end in a few seconds. I'm actually going to stop over here and we'll pick up from question 2C in our next class, which will be next Saturday, right? And we're going to have a double class as we voted on the group, right? So I'll see you guys next class. In the meanwhile, right, all the best with your prep, and if you have anything you need help with, you can reach out. Okay. All right. Have a good weekend and good prep. Allah Hafiz.